everyone, welcome to our second Veggie Rx video. Today we'll be highlighting knife skills and how to properly work with a knife as well as just basic knife safety in the kitchen. Today we're featuring dark leafy green vegetables. We have kale, Swiss chard, bok choy, as well as collard greens. So we'll be showing you different techniques of how to work with these dark green leafy vegetables and how to add them in your favorite recipes. What's great about our dark leafy greens is that they're extremely high in calcium as well as vitamin K, which are extremely important nutrients that support and build our bones. So as we age, we just naturally start to lose some of our bone density, and incorporating more of these dark leafy green vegetables is a great way to make sure we're meeting our calcium needs throughout the day. So a healthy adult requires about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. So just to give you an idea, about 2 cups of raw kale or about 1 cup of kale cooked down is equal to 100 milligrams of calcium, which is about 10% of our day's needs of calcium.
Yeah, so before we start preparing our dark leafy greens, we want to make sure to go over like a little bit of knife safety to be sure that we're as safe as we are in the kitchen, or as safe as we can be. So when we are using a knife, we always want to grab the knife by the handle and never by the blade. If you grab it by the blade, this could cause injury. When you are walking with the knife in the kitchen, you want to make sure that the tip is pointed down and that the blade is behind you, pointing behind you. And once you're done using the knife, you never want to put it in a sink full of soapy water. If you were to go and reach into that sink, you could grab the knife by the blade and cause injury. And when you are using the knife, you always want to make sure that you're using and chopping on a cutting board. If you have the cutting board and it moves on your counter, you can secure that cutting board with either a damp paper towel or a damp cloth, and this will ensure that the cutting board does not move while you are chopping your vegetables or your dark leafy greens. You also want to make sure that you're using a sharp knife to avoid injury. This will make sure that when you're chopping the vegetables, your knife is not moving around on the board or slipping off of the vegetable and causing injury to your hands or any other part of your body. So there are many ways that you can sharpen your knife. You can either get it professionally sharpened, or there are many kitchen tools where you can sharpen your knives at home. And the first one that I want to show you, this is a little bit harder to learn how to use. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it is the most accurate. And this is called a whetstone. And what you do is you submerge this in water for a few minutes. After it's completely soaked, you pull it out. You can place it on your counter, and then you run your knife along it at about a 15-degree angle, about 15 to 20 times each side to sharpen your knife. The next one is a tabletop knife sharpener, and this one sits securely on your tabletop with some grips. And there's a few brands out there, so if you were to purchase one, make sure that you do read the instructions to see which knife can be used on them and which insert to put it through. All you do is you hold it by the handle and you run the blade along the inserts in the sharpener. The last one is called a honing rod. And this one is included with most knife blocks, but this actually doesn't sharpen your knife. It does correct the edge on the knife though, because over time the edge can get some defects in it. And so by using a honing rod, you can correct the edge and so that your knife chops more accurately and smoother. So to use this, you take your honing rod, you can put it on your cutting board, and then you just run your blade along the honing rod at a 15-degree angle, applying just a little bit of pressure to the knife as you run it through. And you can just do it a few times on each side until that edge is corrected. And that should help make sure that your knife is sharp and ready to use.
Wonderful. So now that we have a sharp knife to work with, we're gonna demonstrate how to chop up some of our greens here. So we already chopped up the collard greens into about 1-inch strips. So they're ready to go. You can throw them in a large pot with a little bit of vegetable broth or low sodium chicken broth and stew them down. So you'll just let them simmer on low heat for about 40 minutes. And there you have some cooked collard greens. You could add in a can of tomatoes as well as some garlic and onion powder to give it a little flavor, and then you have a healthier spin on a collard green recipe. So we're going to show you today with our bok choy, demonstrate how we chopped up our collard greens here into the strips. So the first step would just be to roll up your greens. So we're going to roll them up as tightly as we can. And then once we have them rolled up is when we're gonna cut it into the strips like we did here. So you can cut it into the 1-inch strips from here.
Yeah, and as you're cutting your greens, make sure that you're holding your knife properly so that you can avoid injury. Make sure that you're holding the knife by the handle. Some people tend to hold their knife up here, but that could actually hurt your wrist. So holding it by the handle, keeping the tip down and just raising the back edge of the knife and pushing the food through rather than moving the knife along can avoid injury in the long run.
So today we're gonna throw in our bok choy. We're gonna incorporate it into a stir fry. So to do that, we wanna cut it into smaller chunks. So you can do that by first cutting it right down the middle lengthwise, and then cutting it into the smaller chunks from here. So just going along the green, as you can see, Diana's pushing the green all the way through. And then once you have your small chunks of the bok choy, you can saute it by itself in a little bit of a heart-healthy oil, like sunflower or vegetable oil. You could add in a little bit of ginger or garlic powder to give it some flavor and enjoy it on its own. Or again, you could throw it in a stir fry, which we plan to do here today with a lean protein like some chicken and some bright bell peppers, and again, season it to your liking. Swiss chard is another great green to saute and enjoy by itself. The stem is pretty mild in flavor, so it's great to work with the stem when you can. Again, you can enjoy it by itself as a side, or you could always throw it into, let's say, some scrambled eggs or your favorite soup or stew recipe. And then last we have our kale here. So kale has a bad rap for being bitter. So we want to share with you a few different ways to help offset some of that bitterness, just to enjoy kale more in your diet. So the first thing you can do is remove the leaves from the stem. So when we remove the stem, it's going to help just automatically decrease the bitterness, because the stem is where we find a lot of the bitterness of the green. So you can do this by using your hands, and this is a great way to get the kids involved. So you can just tear the leaves directly off the stem, as Diana's doing. Of course, you could always use a knife just to run along the stem to remove the leaves, or you can always use a pair of kitchen scissors as well for this process. So once we have our leaves to work with, from here you could roast them, drizzle them in a little bit of a heart-healthy oil, roast them at about 400 degrees for about 20 minutes and have kale chips to enjoy. You could also enjoy them raw in a salad. And one thing you can even try if you are gonna enjoy a kale salad is massaging your kale, which is a technique where we're just going to give it a good massage, and that's gonna help release some of that bitterness and make it a little more palatable as well. Of course, you can throw your kale in your favorite soup or stew recipe as well to give it a little texture. And then even trying it in a smoothie and adding some fruits just to mask some of that bitterness is a great way to get it into our diets as well.
Yeah. All right, so thank you so much for joining us for our video today. We hope that you learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please share and comment below, or you can go ahead and email us. Thank you and have a great day.